Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here for video 2, week of May 14th. Price list will go out May 14th, this Wednesday at 9 p.m. sharp Sydney time. If you are not on the price list and would like to be, then my email is shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Drop me a line. This is the classic rock and pop list. I just recorded a genre list with blues, funk, and soul, and jazz, and it is well worth a look. So firstly, for those of you who bought records last week, sorry for not getting back to you in the usual time frame. I actually just got back from Asia today, and also this video is a day late going up to YouTube just because of that. So I'm just catching up as quickly as I can. I will be in contact and I will sort out your bundles. This week, I have decided to do something special. Whoever buys a record will get entered into a draw, and the lucky winner will get to choose from these 3 records. So if you buy 4 records, you get 4 entries in the draw. There are 24 records for sale this Wednesday, so there's a maximum of 24 who will be entered. It'll probably be something less than that. There are 3 to choose from. There's a blues record, the Albert King and Otis Rush compilation that's pretty wonderful. I think this is a UK first press, so I'm going to double check, of the second Tom Robinson band. It is in pristine condition, including the insert. And finally, you can own one of the BBC's reference records. In this case, it's Big Generator by Yes, and this is from the BB's own reference library and will therefore probably have never been played. So the lucky winner will get to choose one of those. So this week, what have we got in the classic rock list? I'm pretty excited about this list. The genre list that I just did earlier, I think I'm happy to take feedback. I think it's the best list I've ever done. I'm interested to see what you all will make of the classic rock and pop list. All right, there was only one record to kick off here because I have this particular record and this particular pressing on my shelf. I've owned it for 25 years. It is almost ubiquitous now. The thing is, its reputation is only increasing over the years, even with its penetration into the consciousness of so many music lovers. It is the Japanese first press. Actually, I'm gonna have to double check whether it's the first press, but it is a Japanese press of Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed the bubble wrap there. That is because the record has a working zip. Now, I'm going to leave whoever chooses this record to peel all this apart to see what the surprise is when you do pull down the zip. But an iconic sleeve, back and front, comes complete with multiple inners, as it should. There's the yellow inner and the picture of the band with Jagger in full yawn. Look, I don't know what to say. Those of you who have the Japanese press of this record will know a lot of recent represses of this record sound really thin. They really have digitized the hell out of this thing. The record companies know that people will buy Sabbath, they will buy the Stones, they will buy the Beatles. The Beatles are by far, by the way, the best served. And recently, Sabbath have been really well served by what's coming out of the Rhino High Fidelity label, little sub label that they've built there. Sabbath debut album Black Sabbath last year was one of the best presses of last year, and I have Paranoid on the way, which I suspect will be just as great. So Sabbath, people are starting to figure it out because the more recent, kind of more commercial represses that you get in JB, etc., are genuinely horrific. Do not waste your money. And similarly, the actually the recent some of the recent represses of Exile on Main Street are pretty decent, pretty good indeed. But I had a Sticky Fingers press that was pristine, and it sounded so thin compared to this Japanese copy. It's wonderful. I mean, the Stones were on maybe the greatest. Is it the greatest? Could well be 5 album run of all time. When you think about Beggar's Banquet, when you think about Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, Let It Bleed, and Goat's Head Soup, you're like, holy moly. And in the middle of that, or just at the front, you've got, Get Your Ya-Ya's Out, one of the greatest live albums ever. What a run. It's kind of exemplary stuff. And for a lot of people, Sticky Fingers is the pinnacle. It is this heady mix of sleaze and groove, just smashing into each other. And interestingly, a lot of country and American influence in what started out as such a British band. It's really something. I mean, I think every track has something that appeals to me. Of the deeper cuts, setting aside your Wild Horses and Brown Sugars, etc. I love Sway, Can You Hear Me Knocking, Moonlight Mile. The finishing track is pretty perfect. I mean, I think it went number one over everywhere. I dread to think how many copies this thing has sold. It's on ubiquitous re-release. It's absolutely mad just how popular this record is. I suppose the UK first press will still remain, the crate digger's dream, especially if you can find one with the underwear. Anyway, there's so much to love about it. Produced by Jimmy Miller, who did a lot of amazing work. It is an iconic record. And if you don't, the thing is, these Japanese presses are expensive. So they are what they are. It is what it is. It just costs me a lot to get them. When I get my hands on them, they're worth it, though. Pretty bloody special record. But you all know that already. You might not know how special this next record is. And you know what? I thought long and hard of bumping Sticky Fingers off the top of the tree because I adore this next record. It is the Japanese first press of Secondhand Daylight by Magazine. You're probably thinking, who the hell are Magazine? A lot of people consider the Buzzcocks to be the greatest kind of punk pop band of them all. And the Buzzcocks frontman was Howard Devoto. And when the Buzzcocks kind of started to change, fall apart, as you do, he formed Magazine, who became really one of the key kind of post-punk new wave bands. It was a very deliberate move, and in the same way that when Johnny Rotten left Sex Pistols and went to Pill, there was a change. There was something that was cerebral, in sometimes challenging, atmospheric, but very poetic in Magazine, and they never achieved commercial success. But if you talk to Radiohead, if you talk to the Smiths, if you talk to more modern bands like the Killers, and more about them later, they will know Magazine, because that brooding guitar sound and driving bass has just become a real touchstone, and they are absolutely superb. The second track on this song, Rhythm of Cruelty, on this record, Rhythm of Cruelty, if you don't know it, just put it in and play it now. Pause this, go and play it. It just gives you all that you need to know about the drama of this band, about how how they influence the likes of the Killers. And even tracks like, I don't know, Feed the Enemy. I love them all. And on the Virgin label, they just were just an astoundingly good band. And this record, I went back and read some of the contemporary reviews, and I was surprised to find some people were a bit sniffy. I think maybe because compared to the debut album Real Life, it's a little bit moodier, but I think I prefer it to the debut album. You know, it's closer, I think, in feel to Joy Division than it is to anything else. Somewhat minimalist, and what a great sleeve too. Everything about it. That's Love Magazine. I love this record. If you don't know it, dig in, play some of their tunes, and see what you make of it. I mentioned the Killers just a few seconds ago. I've seen the Killers live. I will never see them again. I went to see them in the Horden with Melissa. Was it last year? And the wall of noise that this band thinks they have to generate creates no dynamics, and that's how they sound like to me on record as well. Even Hot Fuss, which I think most people still consider to be their kind of touchstone record, has some nice tunes, but it's the production is terrible. It really is. It doesn't work on vinyl for me. None of their music does. And it doesn't work live either. I think their guitarist with his kind of wall of noise stuff is just a joke. I just can't. Flummoxes me how popular they were. And I had people walking out that gig beside me going, how amazing that was. And I was like, did you actually listen to that? You couldn't. It was just, it was grim. In saying that, Mr. Brightside is indefatigable. It is a classic. But many of you will never have heard the best version of that song because it is not the version that made it onto that record. This is a really interesting thing. It's a 2 LP 12-inch of various mixes of Mr. Brightside, and it is credited to the interestingly named Thin White Duke. So therefore you might think, was it David Bowie? Nah, it wasn't David Bowie. It was some guy. I wrote his name down 1 second because I'd never heard of him. Stuart Price. Stuart Price did an 8.5 minute remix of Mr. Brightside. It's on Spotify. Just look up Brightside Thin Duke mix and you'll find it. And it layers this song. It gives it a sense of pathos. It also does that wonderful thing that good kind of trance dance music does, is it brings it down and then, shoves it back up, and you just get, a true dance floor epic. There are dub versions and all sorts of other things on those 2 LPs. If any Killers fans are out there, they're going to absolutely adore this. I was reading some of the DJ forums, people just raving about the mixes on that 2 12-inch rare UK release. Stuart Price then went on to do genuine work and produced a whole bunch of Killers music on later albums. So they obviously completely loved it too. I think that the exaggerated synths and dialing back the guitar just works. If any of you do give it a listen, put a comment in. I'm very curious to hear what you make of it. Now we get to what might be my personal favorite album on this week's list, and it is the Japanese first press of Before and After Science by Mr. Brian Eno. Brian Eno from Suffolk, England, the flamboyant keyboard player in the mighty Roxy Music. I just realised that this particular, you have to look up what this means, but it's got what I suspect is the fan club message thanking people for the purchase. I'll do a Google Translate on that a bit later. Another Green World and other records are equally wonderful as well. And we all know that Eno is a pioneer, of ambient music. I wonder if he ever did produce The Killers, but we know it produced Coldplay and U2 and others, Talking Heads. In fact, those of you who know me know that I love wordplay and crosswords, etc. And King's Lead Hat, which is a track, I think it's on side one of this record, is an anagram of Talking Heads, which for me is like catnip. It's like, oh, bow down to you, Mr. Eno. It's like something I would just, he's like, Stephen, how to make Stephen love a record, bingo. There you go. Create an anagram of another classic band and call it that on your album. You know, brilliant. Robert Fripp, Phil Collins is on here, Percy Jones. It's really warm and inviting and textured. It's kind of like its own little musical universe. The Enoverse just was a thing in the 70s, and he does go back to it now and then, but that run of records, Tiger Mountain, this, Another Green World, is just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. There you have the mighty, beautiful Brian Eno, the before and after science. A lot of you will probably consider the next record to be the best record on this list, and I know that there are lots of you looking for this. It is the Japanese first press of Hounds of Love by the truly beautiful and remarkable Kate Bush. What's left to be said about how lush and just complex and yet appealing and fun art pop that's on that record. It's a genuine all-in masterpiece and critical and commercial triumph, and didn't she deserve it? She's absolutely incredible. I even to the point where the dogs barking on the title track weren't dogs. It was Kate Bush, recorded and sampled and slowed down and munged with. You think you know this lady, she's just amazing. Something is a little bit rarer, but I think a lot of you might be interested in this. This is the white label promo of Mark Knopfler's soundtrack to The Princess Bride. Now, it turns out this soundtrack was nominated for an Oscar. For which song? I had to write it down because I hadn't heard before. I think it's Storybook Love. Knopfler plays guitar and keyboards. The soundtrack itself, I think, also got nominated for a bunch of awards. I'd never even heard of it. And so I think obviously The Princess Bride's legacy has well overshadowed its soundtrack. But from what I can see, it has become somewhat of the little cultural kind of, pickup. And so I was quite delighted to see it in the box. It remains very rare, especially on vinyl, and that's a white label promo too. So yeah, I bet you there are some people out there who will fall in love with that. We just mentioned, by the way, Shortcuts, how much we love Hounds of Love, Kate Bush. I've never been able to get hold of enough copies for it to be really in the running for Shortcuts royalty. But this next record is. More than 50 of you have this. If you don't have this in your collection, it is wonderful. It is the Japanese first press gatefold of Diamond Love by Sade. Smooth Operator, Hang On To Your Love. Oh, I was noting Sade Adu, of course, born in London, of I think Nigerian descent, sexy, sultry, immaculately produced, works so well on vinyl, just so great. Cannot go wrong. The most beautiful and literate lounge pop I think that maybe has ever been made. And so every time I see it, it's there. And, the guys put it in the box for me because they know how much I love it, and they know how much you all love it. So there we have, and that copy is wonderful. All right, now for something completely different. This is Floodland by Sisters of Mercy. This is Aussie First Press. Andrew Ellis, 1987. I remember this Corrosion just becoming just an actual hit. I remember watching it on Top of the Pops. And it was this moody, synth-heavy thing that my parents hated, but I actually really dug. And it turns out that the original Sisters of Mercy were pretty much disbanded before he put together a new band and kind of re-emerged with this record, which is kind of apocalyptic romanticism and, drum machine driven as well. I think like most of their early music too. I suppose, if a cult band tries to go commercial, there's always going to be that little pushback. But this Corrosion is something, and so is that record. So there you have it. I also have another unusual thing. It is the debut album from Renee Gare, just called her, Renee Gare. This, her really quite unmistakable voice. I was trying to see if I recognized any of the people here. From what I can tell, there's not many of these around, and there are some cover versions on here. Just Like a Woman, Bob Dylan is a pretty obvious one. Lean on Me, Them Changes from the Band of Gypsies. So a really, wide mix. It's got a bit of kind of soul and Motown, according to the reviews. Not something I've known. I think that she started out much more raw and soulful and became more smooth and sophisticated as she went along. But give it apparently recorded in only 4 days. Using some of the equipment that Cold Chisel would then use on their East album. All right, I've got 2 Shortcuts royalty to go, but before that we got this, the Japanese first press of the Sugar Hill Gang, featuring Rapper's Delight. Whilst not the first band to rap on record, that is one of the signature early tunes. Samples from Chic and all sorts of fun things. There's also Sugar Hill Groove. It's just a fun party record, and I really like the Japanese press of this too. I've had it for many years now, and it's wonderful. All right, next 2 records to finish are Shortcuts royalty. This is the US compilation that was also super popular in Japan, Hey Jude by the Beatles. And I think part of the reason it's become Shortcut royalty is so many of you bought it. A, it's not very expensive, but B, the track list. Hey Jude, Revolution. This is the kind of bluesy version as opposed to the 9-minute psychedelic version on the White Album. Paperback Writer, I Should Have Known Better. Lady Madonna, great piano. Can't Buy Me Love, Don't Let Me Down. Ballad of John and Yoko. Rain, which is one of my favourite Beatles songs, and finishing with Old Brown Shoe. So it's basically everything that's super hard to get, that's not on their albums, collated into something that's really beautiful. And loads of you have bought it and love it. And then finally, the Japanese record that started all, the biggest selling record in the history of Shortcuts, recently overtook the best of the double LP, but best of Otis Redding. It is Michael Jackson's Thriller. I still use this when people come here to show off how amazing this Japanese pressing is on hard cardboard gatefold. It features, obviously, a killer version of the record, but also some posters and all sorts of weird and wonderful things about the cruelly named Wacko Jacko. Why does he need a tiger in his knee? I'm not quite sure, but you can figure it all out. This copy is in fantastic condition, my friends. You will not find better. It is pristine. So there you have it. This is the list. Anyone who buys from this list will go into a competition, a draw, and whoever gets drawn out last, and you will see how it works for those of you who aren't aware, will get to choose between Yes from the BBC Reference Library, from the Tom Robinson Band, and some blues from Albert King. The best of luck to that, whoever wins. Any questions, please ping me. If you listen to that Mr. Brightside remix, please give me your opinion. And yeah, I don't get many comments. I wish I got more. If you do take the time, I will reply. Thank you so much, as always. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye.